I'm not a money person, but I know if I have, what's the best way to utilize it. And I think when money comes or anything comes, what I suggest to myself and to everyone else to be very clear with your thoughts. If you have money, what you want to do, and if you don't have, how do you want to get it?
Okay.
So if you have those right strategies, and strategies sometimes sound a very heavy word, but let's make it simple for people. Think simple and think what is the right way. What define your boundaries? What do you need? What do you need it for? How much do you call it sufficient? And once you have those boundaries defined, it easy because you have defined a scope for yourself. If you try and do everything, we cannot do that. We'll dilute our efforts and things going to be very volatile. So if you want something to be meaningful and impactful, you need to define boundaries for yourself. And when it comes to money, I'm not a money person, but now I have little, I know how to best utilize it and make more out of it. So use your money wisely. And the way when it came to me, because initially the work or business did not start with thinking big money picture. All I wanted to do is to get the bread and butter in the house because, just dependent on my husband's salary was not going to be enough. So I knew that because I've got my family to support as well. So I've got three siblings as well who I wanted to support with their growth and development, and my parents, though they all can do better for themselves, but a sense of being elder was always there. So I was only thinking about that. I did not think even that bigger than that. So that was my first boundary. So I said, all I need that something can help me run bread and butter, all I need to something support my family. And third thing, that I can just do the business and define me who I am, whatever I have learned in past 10, 12 years, that time, I could put that experience into helping others. That was my first boundary. Then I started kind of working hard. And when you work hard with determination and you are clear with your thoughts, I think once you're successful, that's my formula that money comes because you're working hard and people notice that hard work. So then I learned. So even though today I'm learning, if people ask me about how did you manage to get that, I said I kept things very simple, one thing at a time. If I would have done so many things, oh my God, today I have got everything, I would love to do this, this, and that. No, I wouldn't have time for what I actually wanted. So I always remembered my philosophy, where my roots are. My roots started from my living room where my son was there and I started it. He remains the gravity. Now we have got another one, my daughter. Both remains the gravity. So that's my number one. Now PBC is my third child.
Hmm.
So now that is growing as well because 6 years ago PBC was born, so I still have to nourish it, and then it'll flourish us, right? So that's the
Yeah.
basic fundamental I have. So
Okay,
know
That's
your
a
boundaries.
absolutely. Thanks, Preeti. Can I ask you a couple of questions? Sorry, Ray, I'm just butting in. It's just
pleasure.
so this podcast is all about let's talk money, and we are looking at financial well-being.
Okay.
This particular one is financial well-being for women who are in business, and particularly
Mm-hmm.
you are women entrepreneurs, you're starting a
Yeah.
business. Let's go back to 6 years ago when you
Mm-hmm.
just started, and you had your temperamental laptop. I quite like that. So how important was the idea of earning at that moment in time? And I don't mean you wanting and your desire to support your siblings or your parents, just for you and your survival. How important was that?
I
Uh,
think it was
Yeah, you had
important.
one salary coming in, and your husband was the risk
Yeah,
taker, right? So,
absolutely.
how important was money at that moment in time when you started?
So I think at that moment, because I only wanted a little, it was important just to run the bread and butter of the house and to support each other. That's all. That's all it was there for me. And eventually, as life grows, needs grows as well. And I think that that kind of became a point that, okay, now we need a little bit more. And that was kind of a motivation to do more. And when we started things by putting your hard work into something, and if it is generating the revenue for, then it started giving you the idea to explore yourself more and put those experimental ideas into execution. So at that point, it was just about a question for me to ensure that we get bread and butter in the house.
Right. Okay. So, what is your advice for women who are starting up a business, particularly on the financial terms, not just thinking and keeping it simple, because that's a thought which is great. But
Mm.
when you are starting a business, you need concrete cash, or
Yeah.
you are working to get to pay your bills rarely, right?
Mhm.
So, what is your suggestion? How do women, because there is a massive gap in terms of support for women in business,
Mhm.
particularly where funding is concerned, the data and statistics are not really good. Less than 2%
Yeah.
of funding goes to women entrepreneurs. So what are your suggestions? If somebody's trying to start a business, how can they look at their financial well-being?
So I think from financial well-being depends on the business idea you have, because depends on that idea, it's going to define how much money or cash or investment you need. So start from that idea. So for example, if they need for example, a little beauty salon, if someone wants to start, they need to have a clear thought process and a little research. So any business you would like to do, before it comes to the financial, do your research, know what you want to do about that particular business, because if you're putting your hand in something you don't know, you could face lots of challenges. So first you need to understand what your challenges are, and then put a guard for yourself that if that challenge comes, what you're going to do. And once you define these things, then you will think, okay, in order to make this work, I would need that sort of a money. And depends on that requirement. If it's thousands, you would only try and reach those people, maybe friends and family, which we call sometimes angel funding. You try and reach out to that group. So for, or maybe other groups who can help you with that little. Depends on the business requirement. If it's a business, your strategy and your work steps needs to be a little different, because you need to approach different kind of workforce or investors too. So my suggestion, if you're starting a business from scratch, you need to define for yourself what that business is about. Do your research first and have an estimate. That estimate doesn't have to be accurate. And then reach out to right people who you think, because you don't know if you're reaching out to right people. But we have an idea always, and speak to those people, learn from others' experiences. And then it starts to kind of grow into that right meaningful path. And that path will lead you to find the right financial needs. Because if you speak to right people, they'll put you, because connections and networking always play a great role if you're starting your own business. And sometimes, if we need a little funding, you really don't need to approach, because sometimes we are not equipped to fulfill the criteria a bank would ask you, right? So it depends entirely. So who you are, be aware of you are. Try and think risk that you have nothing. So if you think from that point of view, if you start from zero, right, you have no fear to go beyond. No one goes in minus in reality. So if you start from zero, there is only a step is to take forward, right? You can't take a step back. So when you start from that, think from financial ideas, reach out to right people, have a plan, and then think for the right financial steps what you need to do.
Who helped you? Who did you reach out to when you started your business?
No one. And that's a fact.
So
Who I
how
did reach out from financial, that's what I said. All I needed is to put my, and that's why I kind of try and recreate. It's very important that having business ideas, but talk to yourself first about your business idea if you're starting your own business, and understand that area a little bit before you can even think about it. So I worked in this industry for first 10 years before I could start thinking of giving, because, why would people listen to you? A business is like, if you're a hairdresser, people think you know, that's why you are, chopping someone's hair off. So you need to develop that trust first in your customers. Know who's going to be your customer. If it's a stitching business, who I would be selling those clothes I'm stitching for. So know your base first. So when I didn't need from help in financial help from anyone, because it was a skill based business, I was providing a service, it was not a product based. All I needed a laptop, which did work for me, and all I needed is little electricity, which I had in my house. So I didn't need that actual help. But now, when
your
I see,
you had your networks and connections to reach out
yeah,
to?
all I had to do is use LinkedIn and connections, guys. And when we work over the 10 years, I knew that these are the customers I will have one day. that idea. So always remain clear with the thought process. Because when women started, Gulnaz, when we think of a business, there are 2,000 ideas cooking constantly in our head. You need to narrow down those 2,000 ideas into maybe one or two and work on those ideas. Know the gaps, whatever you want to do, just know where you are good at within those and fit yourself. Fit yourself. Don't try and fit everywhere because, there are lots of other people trying to do the same thing. So, how would you create a niche for yourself? So, know your worth before approaching anything else. So, that was my story.
Thank you. I mean, you were in a very fortunate place where all you needed was a laptop and you had your
Yeah.
connections and it was service based, but not all women entrepreneurs have got a service, there are products as well.
Hmm.
And again, even with a service based business, you do need some finances for to build your brand identity for things
Yeah.
like a website, and those associated costs. And I think at that point of time, a little support in terms of financial
Hmm.
support, that would be quite helpful for women. And
Yeah.
that's what, yeah, those are the plans. That's what we're trying to help. And thank you very much for your support with that. We will be talking about that later.
No
Over to
problem.
you, Ray. Thank you.
Did you employ any staff? Do you have any staff now?
Yeah. So we have, I started on my own. And as we started to grow, now we have got a team strength of 15 within a PBC. So within the medtech, we have got 8 people, and then with other businesses, because we diversified, we have got 7 people in that side. So total strength of PBC is 15, and now I work on a phenomena: slow and steady wins the race. So that's why I always, when people talk business, I talk about how big, the risk you can afford. So, and
Yeah,
that's why I say first you need to speak to yourself. So sometimes have become investors now from last 2 years. But I always think from that point of view, if that money is gone, can I still survive? So I have created a core for myself, what I will always need. That without that core, my household or my business will not work. Anything over that core is the financial, like money or whatever we would use for different needs, and that's how we grow. Because whatever is happening in the business, we have secured our like core first. Because if core is kind of like disturbed with any reason, so I think the whole process is going to disturb. So that's why I believe in ring fencing what we have. Slow and steady wins the race. So do not try and invest or think about financial stability straight away. So Gulnaz made a very interesting point about website. When I started, I didn't even think website, we need even a website.
right.
Because sometimes that's where thinking comes in picture. Even if it's a small business, big business, I didn't even have website because I think for first 6 months we didn't even have website. And I think even today, I feel I don't use website. Maybe people use now. But I think website and all these things are very important tools. But initially, those tools don't even come to head. What comes to head is people. So the core of any business should be people, should be your customers. Website and all these things become phase number two, where you need to now increase your reach. You want people to look into those things and sell your services. So be
Yeah.
out there, kind of. I tell all the women, don't be shy of speaking to right people, because that's where help and financial need comes from. And then that always helps you to define that these are the right steps you need to take. Because there is always, if you take right steps, things will grow. But one wrong step is a part of learning.
Okay. I'm going to come back to ask you who the right people are, but I really want to ask you one important thing. That the received wisdom is that anyone who sets up a business must start with a business plan. They
Hmm.
must know what their aims are. What are they trying to produce? Why are they producing it? Are they going to produce it better than anyone else? Who are the competition? Why are they better than the competition? Who's going to buy? What are the problems, etc., etc., etc. It sounds like your business plan is very much inside you. I'm sure you would have answered all of those questions, whether you wrote it down or not. But if somebody came to you, they're not you, they don't have your skills, would you advise them to start with a business plan to actually look at all of these issues? And would you advise them to maybe go and take advice from someone else, a financial person, who had set up lots of businesses before, who could assist them in not making mistakes in terms of over-investing, being over-ambitious, etc., employing too many staff when they didn't need to, being too ambitious. What would your attitude be to someone who came to you for advice, but you knew they weren't like you, they didn't have your skills, but they did have a good idea and they had ambition? What would you say to them?
So business starts from ideas. Whenever you have an idea, there is a thinking process which turns that idea into reality. So, first of all, if anyone's starting a business, my advice would be, what is this business? You have done your basic research. Now you need funds to make
Yeah.
that. So when you go out, some sort of business plan, I always tell people, it doesn't have to be very fancy. Don't work on multiple slides. Maybe little paper and with your handwritten notes could be your business plan. So overthink kills, right? Don't overthink. Just keep it very simple and say, my business idea maybe to set up maybe like a kitchenware shop, or some very like hair salon or somewhere something. So you would reach out maybe. Don't be afraid to kind of reach out, maybe someone who's already in the business, and explain, like learn from their experiences where they all started. And sometimes we feel they will be our competitor one day. Why would they tell us? And I think that is a fear which stops lots of people talking about our ideas, because we are very worrying that someone is going to steal our idea. But we have to leave that thinking a little behind, and we have to be open for criticism, open for ideas, and open for that constructive feedback. And when we put all these things together, it turns into a meaningful business. So if I have to know something, if I don't know anything and I say I want some money, that money will go into ways. There are higher chances that you would lose that money. So first you need to win the trust of your investor, little investor, big investor, that's a later question. But how do you win the trust? If you're starting any business, you need to know a little, right? And if you're asking for a financial help, you need to give that faith to that person that please trust me. So it doesn't have to be any form of business models and plans and all these hi-fi. A little piece of paper or maybe a clarity of thoughts. That's also, if my business idea sat in me because I was thinking about it, that how can I? And then I reached out to my seniors and I said, guys, help me. So ask for help. That's what I'm saying. Until you ask for help, you do not know. These people will not turn into your competitor. They will feel that someone wants to get inspired from their journey. So I think my advice would be, leave the fears behind, talk about your idea, and again, talk to right people. And that's the sensible choice we have to make ourselves. You don't speak to anyone in the bus that, hey, I've got this business idea. Be sensible, right? Choose your audiences wisely and ask for help. And you will get the, because initially I still do know, I've got lots to learn. So I can talk only based on my experiences. And I'm learning from you guys, the way you guys talk, and I'm learning all these things. And so far, so I love to talk to people and say, guys, this is what I'm trying to think. What do you think? And they say, Preeti, do it. But, and with that, but, they tell you suggestions. And I carry those suggestions in a bag with me. And I do not listen to all those suggestions that time. There is no guarantee, but I use
Yeah.
when I need. I heard from someone, I've taken their advice. So listen, ask for help, listen from others, and implement. So take your time. Slow and steady wins the race. That is the truth. So don't try and rush to start a business. Take your time. And I think that is, it sounds like Preeti, you're talking about keep it simple, but the key is to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate, because then we're lost in our own thoughts.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever done a TED Talk?
TED Talk? No, I have not. But I've heard, because as BBC, we there was a TEDx Warrington happens. We were one of the sponsors. So I
Right.
heard lots of TED Talks in person and on YouTube, but never done TED Talk myself before.
Okay, you really should, because in the short time we've been talking, you've probably done 3 TED Talks.
Oh, right. I'm sorry to bore you with
No,
that. I mean,
but it's the opposite of boring. I mean, you are inspirational, and that word is overused, but you are unique as well. And I'm the only thing that concerns me is people aren't you, and they have to be more careful about what they do.
People find when it comes to business, right? We think, oh my God, it's business. That word in itself is super powerful that it can intimidate you.
Yeah,
And that is why, I say, don't let it intimidate you, right? So first, before we do business or anything, know yourself and become yourself. Get that courage to yourself. Because where I come from, I can't even describe that how conservative environment I have come from. And to
yeah,
overcome that, I still get, before I can talk for hours once I start to talk. But to come before break that ice, my hands are still cold. I'm very nervous. I'm still one of those kind of who is still learning to overcome those social barriers to talk about it. But
really.
I think, yeah, I always like before that, I was still nervous that I've got a podcast. But I think then I have to tell myself. So, little time with yourself makes all the difference. And those are the little tips I have learned because I was a 20 years old girl when I left everything behind and decided to come to a new world because I thought, I needed to do something. I just couldn't define myself to just, do a normal job, 9 to 5, come home. What was my purpose? And any business should be purpose led because if it adds a purpose to that, a heavy word business, and if it's a purpose, it will flourish because you are going to put yourself, all you know, into it to make it work. We will have lots of setbacks as well, but again, we are passionate towards it. So again, what I think I would like to add to this discussion. I have said multiple times that know your right people, know your right audiences. Whatever
Yeah,
you do, your business is only going to financially survive or you'll make it stable if you know who your audiences are. Because if I
yeah,
start to sell my medtech services to a food industry, what they're gonna do?
yeah,
It's not going to help. So sometimes that's where talking to yourself, using that research with yourself and about your subject is going to help to turn your little business idea into a financial viable business.
yeah,
So always think about those little steps. Sometimes those becomes the pitfalls, and those are the pitfalls. So rather than because big things, you can find 2,000 books to get understand how to set up a business, how to make financially secure. Only very few of them talks about the pitfalls. I like to focus on those gaps and pitfalls because that's what all I'm trying to bridge. And that's the same implementation, same business model I have used with PBC. So we are debt-free business. We started with, like as I said, with zero, and now like a huge turnover, investment around 500,000 into things, and so these things didn't grow overnight. 6 years
yeah,
hard work, no sleep. Sometimes I can put kids to bed, and then it's my time starts. So that's what I'm saying. When business becomes purpose-led, it makes you work because I had no choice. I didn't want to go back. So if you have some choices which you need to define, only then business will grow. People, if you just say, oh, I've got too much money, right? Let's invest there, let's invest there. You're just taking risk without even knowing what's going to come back. So even if it's a small business, and when we talk about women, when we start from very basic things, I
yeah,
come from that where women were kind of majorly responsible for kitchen. I always use, it seems like a stereotype, but use a very basic example. Because if you give examples which can be relatable, people can make use of it. So if example is given in a Harvard call or Harvard business lecture, what my little beautiful ladies and aunties and everyone like who want to start their own business, how it benefits them. So I give them a very little example. If for example, a little example, if we have to cook for 10 people at home, for example, well, how would you go about it? Oh, I have to cook for 10 people. Who are these? So I know my audience. That's what my customer base is. What I need to give them. I know the requirements. So, and then we start doing the preparation. So what I have done in that cooking tool, in that cooking session, I have learned what my requirement is. And only based on that requirement, I'm putting the ingredients out on the table to use them. So use that same concept in the business. If you
right.
know who you are starting your business for, what exactly do you need, and how you reach to those things. And then where we will help you or anyone will help you to reach to those ingredients. And that ingredient could be money, right? In the business.
Yeah,
And then how do you reach to that ingredient? Do you need to go to a little grocery store or a big store 10,000 yards from your house? Oh, so then you make a decision. You know what? I just need I need maybe 10,000 pounds. So maybe I can get to an angel investor or someone who has got lots of money. They can just lend me money because bank wouldn't give me more. Neither I have got that sort of credit history to go to bank and ask for money because they have certain rules. So you have to always, and that's why talking to people help.
Okay.
So this is just a little example to put things into perspective. When you are little, think little. That doesn't matter. We can think that little into a big thinking, but start thinking.
Okay. I'm going to ask you one final question, although actually I have about 17 final questions in my head. But you've mentioned angel investors a couple of times now. And the first time you mentioned it in context of friends and family.
Mhm.
Do you think what you need from an angel investor is more than money? They need to really believe in what you believe in and believe in you being able to succeed. Is that an important part of investment from an angel investor?
Of course, anyone who gives money, um, they need to have that faith in you, why you are asking that money for. And if someone gives that money, um, believe it or not, they expect some sort of a return as well. So when someone is giving you money and expect any sort of return, they would like to know. And you have to develop that faith in that investor, whether it could be your friend or family. So I think, and you can only develop your faith when you know exactly what you want to do.
Okay. Well, Preeti Choudhary, thank you so much for joining us today on Let's Talk Money. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm so sorry that it's finished. But thank you so much for spending your time. We know you're incredibly busy. It's been absolutely wonderful to listen to you.
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed. Thank you, Ray and Dalnas, for giving this opportunity. I really do not know how much it will be useful for everyone, but I think what I have learned is from my experiences, and all I have tried to do is share my experiences and hope if anyone finds it. But I'm always here to share my experiences to anyone who is looking to start their business and kind of, if I could be mentor anyone in any way, I think the purpose of my business, it's consultancy business. I consult people, so it's solved. So I think, yeah, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I truly appreciate. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Preeti.
your time. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
Preeti, we're really going to help you to set up that TED Talk because you can really help so many people if you do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you
Anyway,
made my Friday. So I think sometimes you can run a good business of consultancy, but sometimes when you have to make your own family, understand that's the biggest challenge. So yeah, I think
Yep.
I love talking to you guys, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to speak in future as well.
All right.
I bet one day your kids are going to grow up just to be like you.
Oh, that's the biggest compliment if you think, I can add some purpose to someone. I think that's the biggest compliment, Ray, for me. So thank you so much. As a mom, that's the biggest compliment.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Preeti.
appreciate that.
Have
Thank
a
you.
great day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And you guys, thank you. Bye.